Reminder for people who are just joining us that the researched questions are in the chat, and you can just click on them and figure out which ones you feel strongly about. So, hello, wonderful people, and thank you for coming tonight. I'm totally psyched to see you. Raise your hand if you came because you feel strongly about democracy and reproductive rights and voting rights and our veterans and gun safety and public safety and our education system. So, you know, whatever your background, we are all united in this. This is us together. I see people here tonight that are retirees, members of Indivisible groups, county Democratic Party groups, educators, churchgoers. You've come to the right place to have a civil and respectful conversation about the impact that the negative impact on our communities of Representative Chavez-Deremer's votes. You know, our recently paralyzed Congress has demonstrated for us once again that MAGAs cannot govern and they bring chaos. And make no mistake about it, Representative Chavez-Deremer votes with Marjorie Taylor Greene 90% of the time. I'm going to say that again. She votes with Marjorie Taylor Greene 90% of the time. Her A rating from Right to Life and the NRA are because she votes against reproductive freedom and against gun safety. Her big oil donors enable her membership in the Conservative Climate Caucus, her expansion of fossil fuel drilling, and her rollback of Biden's climate solutions. Most people don't even know about the Conservative Climate Caucus. It's something to really check into. So my name is Elizabeth Lupi, and I'm a member of the Indivisible DeRemer Accountability Team. And I'm going to let you figure out what is the purpose of the Indivisible DeRemer Accountability Team. Of course, it's accountability. Our purpose is to research and educate the public about the views and votes of the representative, because she has a well-earned reputation for telling people one thing, depending upon what she thinks they want to hear, and voting an opposite. The confusion she creates is intentional. She often flip-flops and is untrustworthy. You being here is a huge help in keeping her accountable. We need to demonstrate the constituents are concerned about her unrepresentative views and votes. If you would like to engage with us more, Ian will put our webpage for the DRAT Accountability Team and our donation link in the chat. The accountability team is known affectionately as DRAT. I personally, but publicly, want to thank people who are on this call, Melinda and Chris and Ian and Bernadette, for pulling off all three of the town halls that have occurred across the last 3 days, all across District number 5. And they represent that constituents are crying out to hear from their representative and to let her know their views. It's possible for DRAT to host this town hall because we are supported also by Indivisible Albany, Lynn County Democrats, and the Silverton Progressives. Ian will put a Facebook page in for Indivisible Albany and the links for the Lynn County Democrats in the chat. Nancy Greenman, I know you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about the work of the Lynn County Democrats? He will. He's looking for you out of the people.
Okay, I can. So we are a very active party. And what I'll say, I think I have, if you don't, Ian, the links to our website, which are important to have so you don't end up in Iowa, in deference to Mark and Susan, who came from Iowa. Iowa's great, but we're Lynn County, Oregon. So our fabulous communications team keeps not only our website, but all our social media really up to date. So if you want to keep track of what we're doing, I totally refer you to those pages, and I will put the link for how to get involved into the chat. And that one page will actually link you to everything you need to know, both how to find out more about our active programs and also how to volunteer for participation. And the other thing is that we have the reputation of being the nicest and the friendliest county party in Oregon. And we try to live up to that reputation. Thank you all.
That's a great reputation to have. Good for you. In politics, that's amazing. So thank you, Nancy. This town hall really started in May when DRAT wrote a letter to Representative Chavez-Deremer demanding in-person unscripted town halls. And the letter was signed by 50 constituents and organizations and delivered to her Redmond office. And to date, she's been in office for almost a year now, and she has held zero town halls in person unscripted. And every other congressional representative in the state has done it, but she is refusing to do so. So that's why we're here tonight. This situation is disappointing and demonstrates that the representative is not doing her job. She's not being accessible and responsive to her constituents. When unpopular votes are taken, she often distracts and avoids giving information. You may have noticed that in a lot of her publications. In a democracy, voters should be able to ask questions and make their wishes known, and that's not available to us with this representative. Many of you know that Representative Chavez-Deremer was elected by less than 2% of the vote. District 5, our District 5, went for Biden in the last election. This is a winnable seat in the entire country. She is the ninth most likely seat to flip back to Democrat. We cannot make progress on climate, healthcare, voting rights, and many other issues unless we take back the House. We must take back the House. Ian, what do we need to do?
We must take back the House.
There you go. This is ours. This is ours to do in District 5. So I'm so glad that you're here tonight, because this will be our kickoff to making sure that she is a one-term representative. If you want to find the sources and citations for our research questions, you can visit the DRAT website. And I believe that Ian has already put that in the chat. But her donor information, including where I found the information about her oil donors, is off of the Federal Election Commission's website. We'll be going through the following topics tonight and asking questions about climate, democracy, ethics, veterans, education, LGBTQ, healthcare, Social Security, reproductive health, and gun safety. I noticed in the chat there are a few other questions that are outside of that, so we'll try to get to those also. We're going to start with the research questions and then open it up as time allows to anything that you feel passionate about and that you brought this evening that you want to be able to ask. I know a lot of us have strong feelings about a particular issue, but we're going to limit our questions to 1 minute or less. And I have a little mindfulness bell in case we need it. So, I'd really like to start out by just asking who has a research question about climate. And you could just put climate in the chat and Ian will unmute you and you can ask one of the researched questions.
So once again, to ask a question, one of the research questions, which let me grab the link once again in case it's not readily in front of you. Here are the questions. There we go. And so either type in climate in the chat or just raise your hand via Zoom, and we'd love to hear a question from you.
And more importantly, you can ask the question directly to Cardboard Lori.
That's right.
And you'll get the same response that you would, otherwise.
Okay, we have a question from Debbie.
Oh, and I'd just like to say that Debbie is on the DRAT Accountability Team, so she knows these questions very well.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Okay, let me find the question again now. All right. Representative DeRemer, scientists insist that fossil fuel consumption must be rapidly reduced or our planet will not support life. And yet you said climate change can be addressed without, and I quote, over-regulating or restricting energy production. This just doesn't fit with what scientists are telling us. Are you promoting a false narrative because it satisfies your big oil donors?
Yay, Debbie, thanks for kicking it off. You know, that's a really great question because it's true that Representative Chavez-Deremer is supported by Koch Industries and also Marathon Petroleum Company. As we battle fires here in Oregon, she's funded by petroleum and she's voting in the direction that her donors are telling her to. We don't know all of her fossil fuel donors because of the PACs that are listed on the elections website. Do we have another question for the representative? Bernadette.
I noticed you accepted donations from Northwest Natural Gas. How did that impact your vote in support of gas stoves and your performance art in proposing a measure anyway?
She's made a big deal about how gas stoves are very important to her. And all we know, because we can't ask the question, is crickets from her. You see, we even have third grade art, crickets. That's it. Do we have another climate question? Oh, Nancy.
So as Elizabeth said, Representative Chavez-Deremer, you are a member of the Conservative Climate Caucus. And I understand that you have said, quote, we have the next couple hundred years to deal with climate issues. With the drought and fires that we have in Oregon, why won't you vote with constituent interests and stop pushing big oil drilling permits?
You know, I'm glad you asked that because it's really been in the news just this week about, I believe it's natural gas actually, pipeline that she's really pushing. The Conservative Climate Caucus's goal is to avoid restricting domestic energy production and is pushing us toward the edge of a mass extinction. So in every funding bill that she can, she also tries to restrict the things that were passed in the IRA that Biden put in for climate progress. So thank you for asking that. Do we have any other climate questions? And does anyone have an unscripted climate question or an unresearched climate question that they'd like to bring forward? Looks like Sally. Welcome, Sally.
Sally should now be able to unmute.
I don't see her though. Why don't we move on to somebody else while Ian is figuring out how to get Sally going?
I think I got it. I'm sorry. It took me a while. Can you hear me now? Thank
Yep,
you.
we're good.
Well, I read in the New York Times today about how drastically fast the climate issue is coming along here. It's we don't have 20, 30 years anymore like we thought. And I was wondering if Representative Chavez-Deremer actually reads the paper, or does she? I would like to see her speak about what she has learned from our newspapers, such as the New York Times.
You know, I think it's an excellent question. And if we had her here, we can ask. So we're hoping that she responds to the pressure of the town halls and she can actually give you an unscripted answer to that. But thank you. You know, I think a lot of us here have broken hearts about what's happening to our environment and to our climate. That's part of the reason why we're here tonight. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. Okay, I think we can move on to democracy and ethics. Does anyone have a democracy and ethics question?
Aha. Looks like Susan does.
Excellent.
Hi, Representative. I see that you voted for House Resolution 5, which weakened the House Congressional Ethics. I'm wondering, why did you vote against expelling George Santos, who was elected based on fraudulent claims and currently has even more information about fraudulent acts that he has committed? Can you please explain yourself?
It is deeply concerning, given the ethics problems that we're having in Congress right now and on the Supreme Court, that she is undercutting our ability to hold our representatives accountable, especially when Representative Santos has been blatantly lying to the people that elected him and that he was elected under false pretenses. So thank you for bringing that up. I can see that Chris Mack has a democracy question too.
Okay, I'm working on it. I'm getting there. Okay, it's coming. The guy at the top of your party is facing 91 criminal charges, is a convicted sex offender, and is about to have his company banned for falsifying records. Can you tell us how you are a law and order candidate?
And we don't know her response to that. And she is often putting out virulent ads against her opponents on the issue of law and order. So that would be a question that we don't understand, both about George Santos and also about the former one. Are there any unresearched questions for Representative DeRemer before we move on to veterans? Oh, Nancy has one.
Elaine had her hand up and I unmuted her.
Oh, great.
Thank you. I got unmuted. So Representative Chavez-Deremer, I would really like to understand your position on January 6th activity. How do you see that as being part of our democratic process?
You know, she has defended the insurrectionists actually, and mentioned that they were protesters and was concerned about how they were treated by the legal system. So I would like to know that also. She recently posed with one of the guards at the Capitol Police, and it was on her website. And I was wondering if he knew her position about his personal safety. So thank you for asking that question. It's a deeply concerning situation with our democracy. So it looks like, are we on to ready to move on to veterans? Do we have any other questions?
So.
Okay.
And earlier, Mary actually had a veterans question. Let me
Excellent.
ask to unmute. Yeah.
Where is Miss Mary?
All right, I think I just unmuted. If
Hi, Mary.
can you hear me?
Can.
Yay. Okay, well, yeah, my veteran questions. I got one in particular. Madam Congressperson, you say that you will, and I believe this is a quote, make sure our veterans and service members are taken care of. But you voted for the MAGA debt default, which would have cut 30 million needed medical appointments for veterans who probably need more medical care than most of us do. Why do you say one thing and then vote against veterans?
Thank you, Mary. HR 2811 is the MAGA debt default bill, which would have cut the funding for the VA by 22%, slashing veterans' access to not just healthcare, but housing programs, food security, training programs, and many others. So she voted for that bill, slashing all that funding, and it didn't pass, as you know. But since then, she's tried to really repair her image and pretend that it never happened. So I'm glad you're bringing that forward, because we know if she's done it once, she'll do it again.
So that's HR 2811?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mary is one of the writers for Indivisible Clackamas. Yay. All right, I think I'm going to move on to healthcare, unless anybody has any other, let's see. Okay, oh yes, Elaine.
I would like to know from Representative Chavez-Deremer, how can she support stopping the promotions of our military leaders and not supporting the readiness that we need within our own country?
Oh, Lori is constantly trying to project herself as a moderate, and yet she stands with the most extremist margins of the party. And it's something that we need to get the word out about, because she refuses to call out the violence also that's being said about our military leaders like General Milley. All right. I think we are on to, make sure that I'm on the right page here. Healthcare. Anyone have any healthcare questions? I was really pleased at our town hall that we had on Tuesday that we had some healthcare for all representatives. And they were all riled up about Representative Chavez-Deremer. I know. We also had some Moms Demand people about gun safety. Does anybody have a healthcare question? Thank you, Debbie.
Okay. Representative Chavez-Deremer, you have said that you oppose all government-funded health care. This includes Medicare, it includes Obamacare or the ACA, it includes veterans health care, it includes Medicaid, and yet you receive congressional health care. If you eliminate health care for millions of Oregonians, what are you thinking about how that will impact our quality of life and our economy?
Most people don't realize that she said that she wants to, she opposes all government-funded health care. I mean, that's in the opposite direction of health care for all. So it's one of the extreme positions that's on our website that you can find the citations for, but we need to get the word out that that's really the direction that she's moving in. She's also voted to cut Social Security funding and veteran services. Again, that was through the MAGA debt default bill. And if she also eliminates Medicare, what's going to become of Oregonians? All those services cut? What will become of us? So no wonder she's not here to answer questions, because we have some difficult questions for her. Does anybody else have a question about healthcare? Yes, Elaine.
There we go. In light of your position on eliminating government paid for healthcare, when are you going to resign from your own healthcare plan through the government?
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to kind of get to that, I think. That she had her PPP loans of over $1 million forgiven for her company that she received from the government, but she voted against student loans being forgiven. So it's all for me, but not for thee. I can have my loans forgiven, but not those for students. The same for healthcare, I suspect, but we don't know because she's not here to answer the questions. I think we're going to move on to Social Security. And a lot of people don't realize that Social Security really impacts women more than men, because they live longer, are more likely to take it earlier because of age discrimination, and they're more likely to be more dependent upon it because their benefit will be lower generally than men. So, does anybody? Oh, Social Security question.
Nancy is
Oh,
raising her
Nancy.
hand.
And while trying to spotlight herself simultaneously. So you have said, Representative Chavez-Deremer, that you will not cut Social Security, but in the MAGA debt default bill, nearly every Republican in the U.S. House, including you, voted to slash the already inadequate funding of the Social Security Administration. How can we trust what you say when you do the opposite?
You know, she refuses to sign the pledge to not cut Social Security, that the Social Security Works folks have been trying to get everyone to sign. She doesn't want to be accountable for her position, so that she can slash the staffing in the buildings and your access to getting the benefits, but still say that she supports it. So it's just one of the ways that she's trying to, and she is pretty successfully confusing voters. So we're trying to get the word out and set the record straight. Does anybody else have a Social Security question? I know there's a couple of other people who are over the age and are actually collecting Social Security out there. Did anybody hear about, there we go. There we go. Ian would like to collect Social Security. So would my children. That Biden said that the Republicans were convening death panels for Social Security because they wanted to meet behind closed doors and decide the ways in which they could cut it as a part of their negotiations. Even after, as you remember, during his State of the Union address, they said they would never cut it. And then here we are. So does anyone have another question about Social Security, or should we move on to reproductive rights? Okay, reproductive rights it is. This is a hot topic, along with student loans, that's more likely to motivate some of our younger voters, our Democrats, our independents, people who realize that reproductive rights are really just the tipping point of a freedom that is being taken away as there's also a movement to restrict contraception. So would anyone like to ask a question about reproductive rights from the research page? I can't see the whole panel, but I know that there's people out there who haven't asked questions. Bernadette, good for you.
Yep. On May 22nd, 2022, you tweeted that Oregon has extreme laws that allow abortions and that you will be in favor of passing legislation like the heartbeat bill. This would result in a complete ban on abortion, which Oregonians opposed. How can you say that you represent Oregonians in District 5 when most of whom support access to reproductive health care when you favor a ban?
Many of you know that, as I said earlier in my discussion of her, that she has an A rating from Right to Life. And she has that because she has scrubbed many of her most extreme views that were on her website. And so if you check our research page, you'll see some of those that were captured before they were scrubbed from her website. But yes, she is definitely has that endorsement from Right to Life for a reason. The other reproductive rights. I haven't heard from Hannah, and I know she's out there somewhere.
And I see Susan with her hand up as well.
Hey, good.
Representative, I know that you called for an investigation into the leaking of the opinion about Roe at the Supreme Court. You haven't called for an investigation into the corruption and bribery of Supreme Court justices. Would you support ethical standards for the Supreme Court justices to match those in the federal judiciary?
Thank you. And we don't know. Again, she hasn't been big on trying to pass any legislation regarding ethics. If anything, she's trying to roll it back. So I think we have a really clear choice about who we want representing us. But we just have to get the word out there. And really, a year from now, we're going to be back in this place, only we're going to be at the ballot box. So hopefully we can get that out there. Thank you so much. I am going to move on unless there's any other questions about reproductive rights to Nancy.
I do. And I'm just going to do it free form because I remember that the headline on your newsletter and website when you voted for the resolution condemning attacks on pregnancy options centers, but would not vote or condemn attacks on centers that provide abortions. And I just wonder why would you not give that kind of equity?
You know, and one of the votes that she took saying that she supports the military is to restrict women who might be stationed in places like Texas and Alabama who are not able to get reproductive health care there because of where they're stationed in the military, to really prohibit them from being able to travel to get the reproductive health care that they need. I think this is going to restrict possibly who would want to go into the military, but also impact our readiness. How can we have combat readiness if we can't plan on people because, you know, they don't have choices available to them? So thank you so much. I know that that's a really emotional topic. And at our town hall on Tuesday, we had a nurse who talked about in the 70s how she was putting women in body bags because they had died from septic abortions. And that we are not going back. We're not going back to that time. Given that Representative Chavez-Deremer would like to have a heartbeat bill, that would push us back to that time. So gun safety. Gun safety, does anybody have a question? This is certainly one that's close to my heart since I work in the schools. And I work in the schools with children who have mental health issues and children who have mental health issues because they don't feel safe in the schools because of guns. Thank you, Susan.
You say that the radical left wants to take away our right to bear arms, but I don't know why you have to be so extreme about it. I'm a champion for the Second Amendment, you say, and you vowed to fight against gun control policies in Congress that will attack our freedom. But I'm concerned about the children in school. And guess what? My daughter and my about-to-be daughter-in-law are both teachers. So they are my children in school. And I'm concerned about them as much as I'm concerned about the students. Why won't you listen to us and vote to the Keep Americans Safe Act and stop saying that keeping children safe from shooters is radical? I don't think that's a radical stance at all. I think it's a common sense and safety stance. And anyone who cares to represent us and represent our children and our teachers and school administrators ought to be taking care of supporting reasonable gun safety rules, which does not mean taking guns away from everyone.
Thank you. Since I'm a person who spent 2.5 hours in a closet with 6 other people once when there was a active shooter in the school and SWAT teams were running around the school, I feel you. And one of the women in the closet with me was pregnant. She had to go to the bathroom. It was a problem. We were in there for a long time. Representative Chavez-Deremer won't even vote for Ethan's Law or the Gun Safe Kids Act. She won't vote to even secure weapons so that children can't get a hold of them. That's how extreme she is. It's like, really locking up a gun when you're not using it? That's not taking the gun away from you. That's just the most basic, but she opposes that also. Do we have any other questions about gun safety? Well, once again, oh, there we go. Hannah, thank you so much. I kind of roped you into that, didn't I, Hannah?
That's all right. So Lori, you've been endorsed by the NRA. You have an A rating according to the NRA. How much has the NRA donated to your campaign?
We would like to know. She's willing to meet with gun clubs and talk about protecting the Second Amendment and how she'll never allow infringement, but she won't meet with us, and so we don't have any way of knowing those sorts of pieces of information. We don't really know who influences her votes. Well, I think we're on to education, unless anybody has any other. And thank you, Hannah. Yeah, Elaine.
I'd just like to know which books the representatives feels should be banned.
a good question. She has the innocuously sounding Parent Bill of Rights that she's voted for, but she won't be talking about that. I think she's also, isn't it Moms for Liberty? I think Moms for Liberty is also supporting the Parent Bill of Rights, and they are a pretty extreme group. They're not what they sound like. So yes, I'd like to know that too. And Pam has her hand up. Thank you, Pam. I'm wondering if Pam is a retired educator. Yep. Pam, we can hear you.
Okay, can you, okay. Recently in the Oregon legislature, a bill was proposed, actually a constitutional amendment to allow parents to take money out of the public schools to send their children to private educational, private sectarian schools if they so choose. And I was wondering how you would vote on a bill like that.
I do know that her daughters went to private school, to private high schools.
Somehow I'm not surprised.
Oh, and probably most people don't know that she said she wants to do away with the Department of Education. What is she planning on replacing it with? Are we going to do away with education altogether? I mean, if you do away with the Department of Education, that's huge. And yet there was a video of her saying that. Okay, any other questions about education?
Nancy does.
Oh, good, Nancy. Go, Nancy.
Yes, I'm getting there. I'm in the third step to get there. So I understand that you, Representative Chavez-Deremer, said, quote, critical race theory teaches victim mindset, that minority students are automatically disadvantaged and that white students are intrinsically racist. Can you actually cite evidence that critical race theory is taught K-12?
One of those bait and switch sorts of things, like if they taught it, but they don't teach it. So yeah, there's a lot of confusing information that she's putting out to try to, and it's working actually. It's working quite well. All right, well, thank you for asking that. I think we're ready to move on to LGBTQ.
I have one. I think I'm unmuted already, so.
Excellent. And then Jackie has one also.
Representative Chavez-Deremer voted twice to limit the military's ability to provide health care for transgender service members. Why do you feel it's your right to interfere in healthcare decisions that should be made with one's doctor?
In a way, it's similar to the reproductive rights. Why does she think that she gets to make that decision for people? Thank you for asking the question. Jackie, did you have a question too?
Yes, Representative Chavez-Deremer, you spoke, or when you spoke at Central Oregon Community College, you said that you looked, quote, forward to meeting all the students, shake their hands, and let them get to know you, unquote. That's a quote. Why did you then leave halfway through the presentation without speaking to anyone?
That really hit the newspaper, so I'm glad you highlighted that, because a number of students didn't want her to come to speak because of her anti-LGBTQ stance. And she said, oh, I'll just meet with everyone. And then she got up and left before the presentation was even over with and wouldn't meet with anyone. So yes, it's deflect and avoid and distract. Thank you so much. You know, does anybody have another question that we have not hit yet that they really feel that they want to bring up? Because, you know, we could have continued on with researching more and more questions, but we wanted to really allow a chance for people to have a say. So are there any other questions that you would like to bring up? Yeah, Nancy. And then Chris. Ian, are you unmuting Nancy? Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, so I am so worried about what's happening with the leadership in the House. I every time we're reminded that the Speaker of the House is second in line to the presidency, and I think of the Jim Jordan, who is at this moment the party's choice as being second in line. Somebody who wouldn't certify the 2020 election results and is anything but a unifier. How would you vote in an election of Jim Jordan for House Speaker?
Have you noticed that it's secret ballot? They won't let anybody know how the representatives are voting, so we don't know. And yes, I think it was Heather Cox Richardson who said that a vote for Jim Jordan is a vote for Trump because he'll do whatever Trump tells him to do. So essentially, we'll have Trump second in line for the presidency. A terrifying thought. And yes, Chris, did you have a question, my friend?
I do. I would like to ask the representative why she won't have unscripted in-person town halls. Is she afraid of her constituents?
Hard to know. Okay, and it looks like we have a question from Susan.
Just to tag on to what Chris just said, I send you, Lori Chavez-Deremer, an email probably 4 or 5 days out of every week. And I used to never get any responses. I always click that I would like a response. Once in a while, I get a response saying, oh, thank you for contacting me and I will get back to you. And then maybe once out of 10 times, I get a boilerplate letter sort of kind of related to the issue that I wrote to you about, but never really answering my question. So, you know, it just kind of goes along with the fact that you won't come and do town halls. You also don't even respond to your constituents, even when we contact you repeatedly.
Thank you. There was a congressional representative at our Tuesday night town hall, and he said the same thing. He said it was unthinkable that he'd worked for decades in DC and wrote those response letters. And the letters that he gets back from Representative Chavez-Deremer often have nothing to do with the topic he wrote to her about, or they're just like, thank you for contacting me, and then ignore the issue. So we really need to have her in person at an unscripted town hall. There any other questions? Last call. Thank you. Okay, well, you know what? Thank you, Ian, for keeping us on track. And thank you, everybody, for their participation in our third and last town hall. The fact that we've done this all across the district is kind of a testimony to the fact that people everywhere are very concerned about how she's not communicating and not really doing her job as a representative. You probably noticed that there is TV media coverage of the Bend Town Hall. There's also been articles that have come out about this. And in Oregon City, we had a rally, a march, and a great turnout for our town hall. Again, I'd like to thank the Lynn County Democrats and Indivisible Albany for supporting us and putting this together down here. And thank you all for coming. I'm wondering, Ian, could you in the recording, and I will put contact information